auf linden Lüften leicht und lieblich, wunderwebend sich weht.
The Rhine has been called a triumphal avenue of the Muses. Rising in the Alps and flowing to the North Sea, it has, for more than 2,000 years, been Northern Europe's main route for trade, culture, religion, and art. Today, ocean-going ships still ply the Rhine, while ancient castles stand as silent sentinels to a violent past. From the fertile slopes of Germany's premier wine-growing region, legends still arise that stir the German soul.
Keim und Spross entstrich seiner Kraft.
What many consider Europe's greatest waterway has been a formidable barrier. 2,000 years ago, it stopped the Roman advance against the Germanic tribes and marked the edge of the empire. In the 20th century, it was the last great obstacle for advancing Allied forces in the final months of World War II.
Today, the Rhine and Mosel rivers are where we travelers can marvel at Germany's Roman and medieval past, explore one of its most modern cities, take in spectacular views, and sample some of the best wine in the world. We're starting our trip in the ancient Roman city of Trier. We'll follow the Mosel River to Koblenz, where it joins the Rhine. We'll cruise the Rhine Gorge, then head north to Cologne, one of the great cities of Europe. According to local legends, the ancient Assyrians established a colony here in Trier 2,000 years before Christ. Whether or not that's fact or fiction, there certainly was a Celtic settlement here by the time the Romans showed up. And it was the founding of Augusta Treverorum as a Roman colonial capital in 16 BC by the Roman Emperor Augustus that distinguishes Trier as Germany's oldest city. The Romans stayed for 400 years and left behind the best collection of Roman ruins north of the Alps. The Porta Nigra, or the Black Gate, was the northern entrance to the Roman town. Built of sandstone and held together with iron clamps, but no mortar, this formidable structure was meant to express Roman power and might as much as to protect the city. Equally impressive is that symbol of Roman luxury, the imperial baths. Near the Roman palace, or basilica, the imperial baths give us a glimpse of the length Romans would go for a hot bath. These were among the largest baths in the Roman Empire and a testimony to the engineering prowess of Rome. The amphitheater is the oldest Roman construction in Trier, dating from 100 AD. Where we now see grass slopes, there would have been stone bleachers, able to sit 20,000 spectators. And what would they have watched? Races, spectacles, and the ever-popular gladiators. To get a more intimate look at Roman antiquities, visit the Rhein-Sitzes Landesmuseum. You'll recognize many of the landmarks in this scale model of Trier in its Roman heyday. That's Porta Nigra. Most of the mosaics, frescoes, ceramics, and glassware excavated in the area are now on display here, making this one of the most outstanding museums of Roman antiquities in Northern Europe. This sculpture and the reliefs depicting grapevines show just how long wine has been an important part of the local culture. The Romans liked to decorate their walls with paintings and their floors with mosaics, and many of their subjects would seem natural to a modern sports fan. This mosaic shows Polydius, a popular chariot race driver. These examples of popular Roman culture remind us of what daily life was like in this imperial city.
After the Roman Empire collapsed, Trier remained a center of early Christian Europe, and it was here, in 958, that Archbishop Henry erected a market cross, marking this as the center of medieval Trier.
Just beyond the market square is the Dom, or St. Peter's Cathedral, built on the foundation of the palace of Empress Helena, mother of the Roman Emperor Constantine. This building can be seen as a symbol of the changing fortunes of empire, as the power of imperial Rome was replaced by the power of the Church of Rome. The Dom was begun in 1035, and it's a powerful representative of the German Romanesque style. Trier's influence didn't end with the Middle Ages. Here's where one of the biggest social movements of the modern era all began. Karl Marx started life in this respectable burgher's house just a few blocks from the market square. Born in 1818, Karl Marx lived in Trier until he finished school in 1835. Shocked as a young man by the treatment of the local vineyard workers, young Karl wrote his first article here, starting a career that would profoundly affect the entire world. His childhood home is now a museum displaying his works and exhibits that show the development of 19th century socialism. The vineyard workers Marx wrote about lived and worked along the Mosel River. Meandering through vine-covered hillsides and protected by ruined medieval castles, the river has anchored one of Germany's premier wine-growing regions for more than 2,000 years. Small villages like Erzig produce the rich, full-bodied white wines loved by connoisseurs. Most of the villages along the Mosel have a wine or harvest festival in the late summer or fall. The vineyards are the reason people stayed in this valley after the Romans left. Weingut Münchhof, owned by the Immael family, is one of the valley's wineries most dedicated to producing the best Rieslings in the world.
Robert, what is it about this region that makes it so favorable for growing Riesling grapes?
The soil, it's a mixture of slate and loam or slate and sandstone, and you see the river. It's always a moderate climate here. Even in the winter we have no snow. This is one reason that the Romans brought the first vines to this place, because they never found it snow here. And they say where no snow is, there we have best conditions to bring vines to this area.
Monks established this winery during the Middle Ages, and the Immael family bought it when Napoleon expelled the monks in 1806. The monk's house, or Münchhof, is now a cozy little inn in the name of the winery. Robert makes a variety of wines and is happy to let visitors sample them in his garden.
This is now a very typical Riesling for the Mosel Valley, low in alcohol, only 8%, and this typical color, the green yellow color, intensive floral aromas.
That is lovely. The fruit is still very much there. It's not a harsh wine at all.
No, that's real typical for a great German Riesling. This is intensive fruit.
Robert, it's a lovely wine. Thank you for showing us your vineyards and having us here where you make your wines.
Zum Wohl.
Zum Wohl.
To your health.
Because the wines of the Trier were so valuable and the river itself such an important trade route, princes, municipalities, and bishops fortified strategic points along the Mosel after the Romans left. Gradually, during the chaos of the early Middle Ages, a warrior class of knights and nobles emerged. They owed their allegiance, their swords, and their lives to the king or emperor. In return, the knights received large tracts of land and peasant workers or serfs that they were obligated to protect. Now, this didn't always work out for everyone, especially the serfs, who were often more exploited than protected. To hold their lands, these knights built strongholds and castles that were fortified, remodeled, and expanded over the centuries. Burg means castle, and Burg Eltz is one of the best preserved in Germany. In 1157, Emperor Frederick I, better known as Frederick Barbarossa, deeded this land to Rudolf zu Eltz to protect an important overland trade route leading to the Mosel. The castle was the home of the Eltz family well into the 20th century, and it's now open to the public. The oldest parts of the castle date from the 12th and 13th centuries, but most of what we see today was built in the 15th and 16th centuries and restored in the mid-1800s. Let's get a glimpse into what life was like inside Burg Eltz. At times, up to 100 people lived within the castle's walls, but only a member of the count's family would have slept in this bedchamber. The wall decorations date from the 15th century, and the bed was raised to take advantage of the heat coming from the fireplace. Of course, every well-appointed bedroom had its own side chapel. A chef from 1490 would feel right at home in the Burg Eltz kitchen. However, the lord of the castle felt more at home in the Great Hall. Weapons were usually locked up in the armory, but the livelihood of a medieval gentleman is on full display here, in the castle's largest room. This is where important meetings were held. The windows and walls are decorated with the coats of arms of related aristocratic families, and the jester's face on the wall designates this as a place of free speech. Now we're traveling over to the Rhine, and when we travel on the Rhine, we're talking options, options, options. You've got trains, cars, bicycles, rollerblades, parasails, and of course, boats. And when it comes to boats, you've got even more choices. From a short hop of a few hours to a luxury cruise that takes several days. We've booked a room on the Viking Danube of the Viking River Cruise Line to take in the Rhine. And we're heading south to board our ship at Rudesheim, then take the river north toward Cologne. Before we ship out, though, let's take a scenic cable ride over the vineyards for a spectacular view of the Rhine and a visit to the Niederwald Monument. German Chancellor Otto von Bismarck thought this the perfect spot to celebrate his 1871 victory over the French and the unification of Germany. 62 years later, the embrace of National Socialism under Hitler led to the disaster of World War and the division of Germany between Allied and Soviet forces at the end of World War II. As a symbol of a united Germany, this monument has taken on a new significance for modern Germans ever since the unification of East and West Germany in 1990. No longer the pawn divided between two superpowers, Germany can now look to the future as a leader in the new European Union. But it remembers its past, a past that's romantically recalled on the river cruise waiting for us down below. Luxury ships like the Viking Danube ply the Rhine from Amsterdam to Basel on the Swiss border, with plenty of stops to explore the picturesque villages, bustling cities, and medieval castles. The best part is you don't have to sleep in a different hotel each night. You can enjoy the passing scenery from your deck chair, and every meal is prepared by a gourmet chef.
On a ship like this, right now we've got 140 guests and 40 crew, so maximum we can say about 200 per day. All our meals are cooked fresh. The stocks, the sauces, the pastries, everything is made fresh. There's no powder, no frozen stuff.
Now this is the life. Fine dining with good friends, and you don't have to remember where you parked the car. On deck, we get a sailor's eye view of the towns and castles that cling to the hills. These ships cruise the most scenic parts of the river during the day, and this morning's stretch is the Rhine's most picturesque. There, near the town of Bingen, is the 13th century mouse turn. Here, the wicked Bishop Hatto of Mainz, known for such acts of malice as burning beggars to death and hoarding grain during famines, took refuge, only to be overrun and eaten alive by mice. Legends come to life along the Rhine. There, ahead on the right, where the river narrows and makes a dangerous turn, is the Lorelei Rock. It's the home of troglodyte dwarfs and a most beautiful temptress named Lorelei. According to the Romantic poet Heinrich Heine in his 1823 tale Die Lorelei, the beautiful Lorelei lured sailors to their deaths with her enchanting songs. Luckily for us, our captain's immune to her charms. Coming up is the village of Saint-Goar. Built in 1245 and destroyed by French revolutionaries in 1796, it now boasts a restaurant, wine tastings, and medieval tournaments. A river cruise is a great introduction to the many castles along the Rhine. You can enjoy the scenery from the deck and pick and choose the sites you want to visit while on shore. We're getting off at the next stop in Koblenz, where the Mosel meets the Rhine.
On reaching the confluence of the Moselle and the Rhine, they realized that escape was barred. So wrote Julius Caesar about how he trapped two German tribes that had invaded Gaul. On this spot, the Roman legionnaires slaughtered the German warriors, while the cavalry chased down and killed the fleeing women and children. Wrote Caesar, the survivors flung themselves into the water and perished. The Romans then established the town of Confluentus, now Koblenz, and used it as a base to cross the river and penetrate deeply into Germany. But their success was short-lived. 18 years later, the Germans got their revenge, ambushing and slaughtering 3 entire Roman legions during a lightning storm in the Teutoburg forest. The Emperor Augustus railed and cried, "Give me back my legions!" But he withdrew from Germany and decreed that henceforth the Rhine would be the border of the Roman Empire.
Just 35 kilometers north of Koblenz stands a more recent reminder of an historic battle. Here at Remagen, American forces reached the Rhine in March of 1945. Soldiers of the 9th Armored Division raced across the bridge before the Germans could destroy it and established the first bridgehead for Allied forces across the Rhine. The Allies had achieved not only a strategic victory, but a huge psychological one as well. The Peace Museum Bridge at Remagen preserves the impressive basalt towers as silent witnesses to the destruction of war and as memorials to peace. Nearby is Rolandsbogen, or Roland's Corner. Roland, Charlemagne's great paladin and chivalrous hero of the medieval epic poem The Song of Roland, was in love with the beautiful Hildegund. While off fighting the Saracens, Hildegund heard a false report of Roland's death, and in mourning, she entered a convent on the island just below here. Heartsick, Roland built this castle and every day gazed through this window upon the convent below. When Hildegund died, they soon found Roland dead by this arch. Never mind that this is just a legend, it makes a great romantic story.
But enough about heartsick lovers and romantic legends. We're ready for one of Europe's most vibrant cities, Cologne.
Cologne, or Köln as the Germans call it, is the largest city in the Rhineland. We're all familiar with the word Cologne because in 1709, Giovanni Maria Farina, an Italian chemist living here, invented a scented water he called Kölnisch Wasser. The French called it Eau de Cologne, and Americans just call it Cologne. The Romans founded Cologne in 33 BC as a colonial outpost, or colonia. During the Middle Ages, it became an international center for trade and one of the principal cities in the Hanseatic League. It's still a center for trade and the southernmost port for ocean-going vessels on the Rhine. The cathedral is the largest Gothic church in Germany and one of the world's most majestic structures. Allied bombing during the Second World War largely destroyed Cologne, but the cathedral was spared. Some say it was a miracle. Others say it was because Allied navigators used the spires of the cathedral as a landmark, not releasing their payloads until after the cathedral passed through their sights. While reconstructing historic landmarks and preserving the historic street plan, a new, vibrant, modern city was born.
And there's no better place to experience the modern than right here at Cologne's stunning Museum Ludwig.
Housing the largest collection of Picassos outside of Spain, it also boasts an impressive collection of pop artists such as Warhol, Lichtenstein, and Siegel, and a wide selection of 20th century masters such as Dali, Rauschenberg, and Jasper Johns. Also housed in the museum is the Agfa Historama, with the largest and most important collection of photographs devoted to the cultural history of photography. The collection spans more than 150 years. For an example of the brewer's art, we're going to try a beer unique to Cologne, just around the corner from the cathedral at the Früh Hofbrau. Kirsch is a style of ale brewed only in Cologne. Served in these distinctive Kirsch glasses, it's a delicate brew that is as pale as a Pilsner, but a bit fruity like ale.
Light-bodied and clean-tasting, it's said to settle the stomach and is often served as an aperitif.
The brewers of Cologne jealously protect the Kirsch appellation and claim it's stronger and tastier than anything brewed in Munich. Now, those are fighting words for a German, and you owe it to yourself to choose your favorite kind of beer. The residents of Cologne are justifiably proud of their beer as well as their city. Rebuilt from the ashes of war while embracing its 2,000-year-old history, Cologne and the Rhineland offer the romance of the past while boldly striding into the future. No longer the barrier encountered by the Roman legions, the Rhine and Mosel rivers offer travelers a trip through time, a trip of empires, myths, vineyards, and romance. Of his travels in the Rhineland, the poet Lord Byron wrote this: "The castled crag of Drachenfels frowns o'er the wide and winding Rhine, whose breast of waters broadly swells between the banks which bear the vine, and hills all rich with blossom trees, and fields which promise corn and wine, and scattered cities crowning these, whose far white walls along them shine, have strewed a scene which I should see, with double joy wert thou with me." Until next time, I'm Rudy Maxa. Auf Wiedersehen.